to Freshly Forever, a podcast that gives you fascinating insights week after week. Here's your host, Vi Kumar.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode on podcast Freshly Forever. Today, I have the pleasure of having here with us Rachna Nath, a Fullbright Scholar, time innovative educator, an entrepreneur, NASA Solar System Ambassador, National Geographic educator, grant writer, and a STEM enthusiast. She has 2 masters, first one in entomology, insect science, and the second one in biology, developmental genetics from Arizona State University, working with the honeybee exocrine gland ontology. She has won numerous awards, and she has received the honorable mention for the Presidential Innovation Award for environmental educators in the United States. She is Teacher of the Year. She has also been invited to join the Imaginary College as an honorary member, Center for Science and Imagination at Arizona State University. She has been featured as one of the 50 2021 Women in Million STEM, and she has been recognized at the Women in Leadership Conference by the Chandler Chamber of Commerce, Phoenix, Arizona. It just gives me so much joy to talk to Rachna here today on Podcast Freshly Forever. And hey, Rachna, welcome to the show. And it's such an honor to have you here.
Thanks, Vi. Thanks for inviting me to your podcast. And it is absolutely my pleasure to be speaking with you today. And, accolades are one place, but I thrive in students' achievements. So thank you so much for giving me this platform to reach out to my students through your connections. So thank you.
Oh, absolutely. You've had a huge impact right there. You mentioned students, and you've had a huge impact on youth, bringing their dreams to vision. Why don't we start with how you got passionate about fostering young innovation, and when did you gravitate towards STEM as a focus area?
Well, I was a STEM enthusiast forever, but my focus being born and brought up in India was I'm going to be a doctor because, of course, that's what the whole idea was in the late 1970s. But while coming here, I did not end up getting into medicine. I got married, came here in the US in 2003, started working as an adjunct professor at one of the community colleges. Even then, I didn't realize what I really wanted to do unless I decided to do a PhD in 2014. So after 13 years of my first master's, I joined a PhD program at ASU only to be told by my professor that he's leaving for Germany. And the 2 options he gave me was come to Germany with me, or you have to find another professor. That was not going to happen because, I cannot go to Germany with him. I had my family here. I had my kids. So, and also, unfortunately, I could not find another lab within the time limit that he had given us. So, and not just me, there were 2 other students in his lab. So, unfortunately, I remember the day of March 2016, where I changed my PhD to a second master's. I went into depression. I went into anxiety, a lot of things because I did not want to not become a doctor, if not medical doctor, become a PhD. During that same time, my friend who has been adjuncting with me to all the community colleges reached out to me and said, "Hey, Rachna, there's a teaching position in a high school. Do you want to join?" I said, no, that's not what I want to do. But I ended up joining anyway. 2017, I joined, and my life changed when I received an email in my spam folder. And the email was from Lemelson, MIT. And it was for a $10,000 grant for high school students to come up with an innovative idea for a real world problem.
Oh, how nice. And that too in a spam, which you could have completely,
again,
just ignored it.
I clicked on it and I'm like, MIT, And I still remember that moment where I'm like, what is it? And that just changed my life. I really found my true purpose as to why I wanted to be a teacher at that point, because I felt that after 6 years, I have become the person whom I was looking for when I was in high school, because I was that lost kid who had lots of questions. So that's how it developed. I mean, I found my passion completely by chance and through destiny, I guess.
And that's a great one. So it was sort of a positive shift that occurred when you were down and
Correct.
and when you were in doubt, right? Your professor just kind of, gave you such a short notice and you really had to figure things out. And I know how anxious you could have been.
Right.
And so when did this turnaround happen? When did you become a Fulbright Scholar? Was that right after this MIT thing?
Right. So actually, it's a work in progress. The Fullbright Scholar. So I just received the scholarship. Actually, it's through the United States Department of Education, and a part of the Fulbright Scholarship is that we have to train to go in India. So my Fulbright is in India for 4 weeks, starting October 28th. And during the program, what we're going to do is we're going to visit 4 to 5 rural villages, starting from Nainital, Dehradun, Jaipur, Delhi, and Mumbai. So we are going to work with the Warli peoples. We're going to visit Dhanu. We're going to visit the Jim Corbett National Park. And the idea is to study the lifestyles of those people there and what they have done to mitigate climate change, or what could be some of the sustainable ways that they are trying to mitigate this change and make their life more bearable in those areas. And after we come back, the third phase of the program is basically to write a robust curriculum and help students here understand what could be some of the ways that we can actually critically think, evolve, innovate new ways to counteract climate change. And for me, we are 12 of us which are going. For me, I'm big on innovation and entrepreneurship, so that's where I'm going to take my curriculum into. But again, there are political scientists, there are literature specialists who are also going. So they write curriculums in their fields, and then we give it to the Department of Education, which is then made available to all K-14 schools and colleges.
Oh, how nice. How nice. So your educational background, you just touched upon the environment piece, and your educational background and role as a National Geographic educator as well. So how does that all tie in? I mean, because you were on several hats, Rachna, I guess it's worth touching upon every single one of them. I guess I'm going to let you speak. So, I don't make any mistake here in honoring all the stuff that you have done, because you're a time innovative teacher, you're a researcher, and you are a NASA solar system ambassador. You're a National Geographic educator, you're innovator, and you're a grant writer too. And you're an entrepreneur. Of course, you're a STEM enthusiast. That's where a lot of it is stemming from. So why don't we have you share light on each one of your focus areas so that, it's much more, lucid to the listener when it comes from you?
I think everything is very interconnected. And I found myself wearing all of these several hats, all to the point and purpose of giving my students the opportunity that they have not received while they were in high school, or even have thought about it. Because when you go to a high school student, the typical 4 things that the students do is work on their GPA, right? So they're looking at 3.5, 4 GPA. Everybody is volunteering. Everybody is in some kind of extracurricular activities, whether it is sports, music, dance, whatever you name it. And the last thing is that they are all presidents of a club showing leadership. So now the problem is, if that becomes your base, what is your exceptional characteristics? So in searching for those exceptions, I came upon through that spam email that, hey, the kids can now actually add to their resumes about grant writing, innovation, having patent holdings, because my students have 6 provisional patents and 3 patent pendings. They have 2 established companies which are doing really well. So everything comes from there. So when I talk about a NASA ambassador, I applied for the program. It's a very rigorous application process because I wanted my students to connect them to NASA experts. because I have a whole bunch of students, because I have to be equitable. I cannot just say that I'm a biologist and my expertise is in biology, so I'm going to just cater to the biology kids. It doesn't work that way. When you're looking at innovation, we're looking at, critical thinking. You have to provide the students what they truly need. So I
Yeah,
had
you
a whole
need
bunch
to
of
be able to expand your wings, right?
correct.
You just cannot just focus on like a small subset.
Right. So that's what I said. Okay, I had these students who wanted to do projects on space. Oh, I don't have any expertise, so let me become an ambassador and see what we can do to bring these NASA experts in. So that's why I became an ambassador. For National Geographic, same thing. We wanted to do sustainable work. Some of the group of students wanted to see, make bricks out of mushrooms. That's very possible now. So how do I get those specialists? And even though I'm a biologist by nature and I'm a conservationist, but the expertise are with somewhere else. I am more of a provider or a facilitator, I suppose. I became a grant writer because I had to make sure the students are writing grants that will get funded. And the students have written anywhere from, local grants, state grants to federal grants. So the process of, just reading a 109-page instruction and then bringing out a grant proposal is something that the students now thrive in. They love the challenge. And being an entrepreneur, innovator, my brain works in very weird ways. I always look at a problem and I try to find solutions. And those solutions, I give it to my students, and they research, they do pattern searches, and it comes up as an innovative idea. So, and being an entrepreneur, when I said entrepreneur, I actually have my daughter, who is an international best-selling author, and also she has started her own company, and we have co-founded that back in India. It's a
And it's worth mentioning here that she was on this very same show, right?
Correct.
Rachna Nath, and it was just such a joy to talk to her.
Thank you. No, she's exceptional. I mean, and when I say exceptional, I mean every single student is an exceptional kid if you provide them with that nourishment that they need and show them the way as to what is their curiosity. Don't impose, make sure that you know their curiosity and foster it and facilitate it. I think they can do amazing things. And this 3-generation women entrepreneurship, including my mom, me, and my daughter, is a wonderful example of that, because she not just stayed with publishing a book, but now she has an established company back in India that actually we just had a startup and it's doing pretty good. So.
Oh yeah, Oxyblast. And in fact, by any chance, is there more than 24 hours in your day?
No, but I actually am a power napper. So knock on wood, I can nap any time of the day. That helps me. And I do get a pretty decent amount of sleep, but I do tell my students that I'm an extreme procrastinator, which actually is not a bad thing. I am an extreme procrastinator because I'm an extreme organizer, and I organize my time. And I think that it has a negative connotation to it, being a procrastinator. And actually, if you can be very, very effective if you are an organized procrastinator. When you have these time slots available and you make yourself effective, that's what I tell my students, that, it's okay to be a procrastinator. It's not a bad thing, but be organized enough so that you can meet your deadlines on time.
I guess I want to call it you are very organized to the point that you are so good at and smart about prioritizing things. So I think that helps you put certain stuff on the back burner when you need to, but then, just give importance and precedence to the other stuff that needs to, just be in the limelight. And I know for each of these things, just for anyone listening that's wondering, the NASA Solar System Ambassador, the National Geographic stuff and everything else, grant writer, does it take certifications? Does it take extra bit of, coursework from your side to be able to become one? And what is the timeline associated with that? Just so if we can touch upon it, because people may wonder, hey, how do I become one?
Absolutely. So for a NASA ambassador, well, there are two things. There's a space station ambassador, Ambassador, which is the International Space Station. That is just a plain application. You don't have to do anything and you get accepted immediately. The space station, I think it's SSA, if I'm not wrong. If you look up International Space Station, they will come up, and they have amazing resources. You can actually talk to people at the space station, staying here in your own room. And I actually exploit that for my students who are involved in space research and things like that. For NASA Solar System Ambassador, it is a tedious application process. They'll ask you a lot of questions, and they want a recommendation from an existing solar system ambassador. And that's where a little bit tricky. I had a friend who connected me and showed me the way. So I named her as my recommendation reference. So it happened. The application process, I think, is open now. We come to know about whether we got selected or not by the end of December. And NASA only picks around 2,000 ambassadors. They don't pick more than that. So it's a rotating process. You have to have completed 4 events in a year. And this is my 4th year doing it. And if you keep their requirements and meet their standards, they'll keep you as one of the running ambassadors. For a National Geographic Certified Educator, that is actually a course that you have to take. And the course requires you guys to critically think, analyze about a problem. And for me, they call it a capstone course. So you have to create a capstone course and talk about, delivery of that course. How did your students do and what? And it became easier for me because I was already working on such a project, and I used that project to apply and run through the whole entire program that they had. They had timelines that we had to meet and answer a few things. And the National Geographic Educator community comments and provides feedback to it. And finally, if you do well and you present your topic well, then you become an educator.
Oh, wonderful. How wonderful. And all this coming from a very modest background, you have just achieved this to be able to become like someone that can nurture students, entrepreneurs, and, some folks into research as well, or several folks as researchers. So how is it that young minds can realize the true potential that they have? And what does it take for you as that person at the helm, the teacher, the educator, to help breed such creativity and bring it into the limelight, Rachna? Because it's not easy for anyone to be able to just treat their job differently. I think several phenomenal teachers,
right,
they just go into the classroom, they just do their part because the system allows for only certain leeway, right? In the sense, okay, there's pay structure to it, there's time bounds to it, there's just, the demands of achievement in terms of grade. So how are you able to fit everything in? And how are you able to bring out the best out of your students?
When you asked this question, one thing came to my mind. One of my friends told me, Rachna, in our school, we are all exceptional teachers. We all aim for the betterment of the students. We all do our excellence. And she said something which I thought it was a compliment, but I didn't know. So she said, we are all here, but you are there, Rachna. How do you do it? And I'm like, I don't know. I think I do think outside of the box. I make the content a reality for the students. I don't teach it as a content that, okay, you read this and you take this notes and you do a quiz. I don't do that. I involve a lot of critical thinking process. For example, for every unit that I teach, there is always a question of, come up with an innovative idea in this unit, and most of the students, they just write whatever they want to get the points, but there will be a few that you can read and say like, oh, okay, now this is something that I really want to foster in the students. Sometimes they don't even know what they're talking about. I use a lot of science news journals. Like Science News is one of the magazines that comes out of a nonprofit organization called Society for Science, and I'm very closely related to those research teachers there. And I've asked my students to pick one article that is interesting for them. So that way I come to know what kind of things that they're truly interested in, giving them that opportunity to explore and tell them why did they like that article that much. So usually it will be like, oh, because I'm interested in cancers, I'm interested in, robotics, I'm interested in space. That gives me a very preliminary idea of, where the kids are. To be able to involve, critical thinking and problem solving, it doesn't need too much. I still follow all my curriculums. I still follow all the state standards. But I think that one question at the end, or, giving them an opportunity to explore that topic on their own and make it relevant for them, that is actually what it takes. And again, it doesn't take time. I feel, I'm not going to say sad, but I feel restricted when I feel that when exceptional teachers, and I have many exceptional teachers who are my friends at my school, feel that, and like I said, when I say exceptional teachers, they are truly exceptional teachers. They teach content at an extremely high level. They get extremely good AP scores. But again, what can we do outside of the curriculum? That is what my expertise is. And I think I've been able to weave it into the curriculum in a way that the students don't think it is stressful. I feel that is like a refresher of, okay, we just learned that. So now we get to apply it.
That's fantastic. Again, kudos to you for doing it. Where did this all get triggered from? I guess there has to be an underlying aspect, right? Was there some deficit somewhere in terms of how you felt as a student in your learning journey that prompted you to think, hey, I need to offer a different perspective to my students because I'm so passionate about knowing the why, how, what, when, where of it all, kind of like a full 360. And I feel somewhere I miss something, which I feel should not be the case. And I think we all should acknowledge that learning is an everyday journey, right? It's a journey. And so sometimes does it make you think, hey, I'm learning along with my students. So it just gives me like so much satisfaction doing it all. And they're also able to see, kind of like light at the end of the tunnel, being able to see through fully.
Right. I mean, for me, I can talk to you about two things, right? Well, I was in school. First of all, I was this weird kid who would always ask questions. I did not have a lot of friends. I did not have an A in all, A, which corresponds to like extremely high academic in India. I was never that. I was an average student. And when I say average student, like 70, 80% in 10th grade exams, those kind of things. So I was never an exceptional student. But then what drove me was my curiosity. Why? Why does this happen? And I used to ask a lot of people, and a lot of people would shy away from answering those. And my parents were like, oh, Rachna, stop. But I had this one uncle who was one of the intellectuals. And I remember spending hours talking to him and asking him, how do I go to US? How do I do this? How do I do that? And he's like, okay, Rachna, you're just a high school student. Let's talk when you're,
so
growing up.
It's on the same wavelength as you, and that kind of brought an extra bit of connection aside.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I felt that outside of just me learning, I was a very active kid. He helped me structure a little bit of it, but then I still felt that, and I used to meet my Masaji only once in like 3-4 months, which was not enough for me. That was one trigger point. A second thing is my son. My son is an exceptionally brilliant kid, but he doesn't like studying and reading. In a normal setting here, when you ask him to read a social studies textbook and make a summary out of it and do a test, he is bored out of his mind. My daughter is different. She is excellent in she's a type A personality. She'll do everything. But with my son being a challenge, because for me, being an Asian mom, I cannot fathom that he can get a C or a D in his class. It's something that's not possible for Asian parents, right? They cannot accept it. So I had to figure out ways to make sure that he is doing some learning. But he is very good in Rubik's cubing, origami, things that are hands-on. So then I realized, okay, if he can be motivated that way, which again, why we are not minorities, we are not underprivileged, right? I mean, minorities in a form, yes, but there is this whole bunch of kids like my son who are seeping through the system because they do not fall in those traditional boundaries, but they still don't like education. They are my C's and D's students whom I feel that we are not being equitable to because we are not looking at them. We are looking at those other sections, which is not fair. So to be equitable and to catch these students, I think that my program that I had developed gives them an edge because, Harvard's lowest GPA that got in was 2.9. If a 2.9 GPA student can get into Harvard with creativity and critical thinking, my son can possibly do that too. Not saying that he's going to target Harvard, but I'm saying that how do we motivate these kids who are exceptionally drawn, do not like the education system we have, do not like the biases that the testing and the assessments bring because they are not good test takers. They're brilliant, but they're not test takers. So how do we bridge that gap? I think that is what made me think and bring that out, because now I have students coming to me in ninth grade, even though I don't teach ninth grade anymore, saying that, Ms. Nath, I want to be in your program. I said, well, okay. It's not a program as such. Yes, I have it as a program, but they will be with me even outside of being in my class to figure out, oh, if I stay with Mrs. Nath, probably I'm going to get a patent. I'm going to be able to write a grant or establish a company or, do some critical thinking soft skill developments, which are necessary, so necessary for the students to have. Even the communication skills they lack. They're afraid of failure. Doing that, grant writing, failing, that is an experience that they should be able to witness. And I think at that stage, after 6 years, some of the students have understood. And I'm still trying to bridge the gap between science and art, the STEM and STEAM part of it, because a lot of the students still think science is not their forte. And it's nothing to do with being a science student or an art student. It's just a mindset as to how they can involve art and being inclusive. So it's a long journey. We'll cross it for sure.
Okay.
But that's where
so that's
it is.
Again wonderful to know that whatever your son experienced kind of made you see things through a different lens. That's phenomenal.
Right.
Back in a moment with our guest on Freshly Forever. What about, say, do kids that are usually less interested, so to speak, in terms of, okay, a certain topic area or science as a subject, do you see, based on your methodology, that they respond differently and they are able to gravitate towards STEM and get interested? And I know for a fact, even based on my own personal experience during my learning days, my school, middle school, high school days, that, hey, a lot depends on the teacher to either kind of motivate you or, make you gravitate differently, right? So because
Sure.
you see them day in and a day out. So how is it that you are nurturing people that perhaps would not have gravitated towards this area to be able to, just do things that they would be so proud of?
I'll start with an example. This was, I think, possibly the second year of my teaching, and I had a student named David, and he was doing a D. He would stay in a corner. I'm like, David, what's wrong with you? And I would have conversations with him and help him otherwise. And he was like, yeah, Miss Nath, I'll do it. Never gets done. And then I happened to find out that he's in robotics. He loves robotics. So one day when our district coordinator reached out to me to help with one of the projects, the project was to help this 6-year-old girl who is handicapped, to help her with an attachment where she can keep her iPad. So when she is sitting in her chair or on a table, they have attachments that can hold her iPad because she communicates to her iPad. But when she's sitting on the floor, nobody can use that. So she needs a way to keep her iPad standing. So I talked to David. I said, David, you are so good in robotics. Can you please make her a stand for her iPad? So we got the measurements of the iPad, and then, unbelievably, in a matter of a month, he made an attachment. It's like an arm that you can attach it to her wheelchair. You can have it stand on wherever. And I called him over. I told all my students about him, have him present what he made. And I didn't have to do anything else. His grades went up to a B.
Oh my gosh. I mean, what a transformation, right? One for not just for himself, but to have transformed somebody else's life and made it,
Correct.
just so much more, of like an important, rather an appreciative stuff for them to, just be able to see things, be able to live things and enjoy and experience stuff with her iPad and All that is just great.
And it's community impact. What he did, he helped this little girl, 6-year-old girl who was handicapped. And then when he graduated out last year, he's a biomedical engineering now.
Oh my goodness.
So
This makes me feel so proud. I have not even seen the individual. And what about your trademark, DRIP BL? I guess that stands
triple.
Yeah. Dream,
Yeah.
research, innovate, project-based learning. Is that right?
Correct. So that is my methodology. So basically, what I have my students do whenever they come to meet me is dream. So dream means, do you really know what you want to be and what you want to excel in, right? For most of them, they don't. They'll come and say, I have no idea what we want to do, Mrs. Nath. So I say, okay, this is a list of 50 grants. Some of them are MIT grants. Some of them are NOAA grants. Some of them are robotics grants. I mean, some of them are STEM grants, basically telling them any idea in STEM. So they pick what grant that they want to write about. That gives me an idea about, oh, this kid is extremely interested in robotics. So that's the dream part. What do you really want to do? Then research, of course, whenever you write a grant, whenever you start a project, you have to do a lot of research. And the research is not just on what's out there, but the part of that I do is also patent searches. So they do patent searches and they understand what kind of solutions are already evident or available in that particular problem that they want to address. And then they innovate. Because they have patent searches and because they have done an extensive research, they know now how to make it different from whatever is existing. So that becomes an innovation. And the whole work
motivates them to want to.
Yeah, because it's their idea. Right? And again, the incentive is you're going to get a grant, you're going to get money out of it, or maybe even present at MIT next year if it's an MIT grant. So, or you will get accolades from, and then you can get it in your resume and say, hey, I won this award. And, as Dia is going through all the application process, I know that how much these counts because they're asking for community awards, outreach awards, and all of those could be examples that they can put in for college applications. And then the PBL stands for problem or project-based learning, depending on what it is. Usually it becomes a problem-based learning. Project-based learnings are very time-framed, like restricted, but I prefer to call it as problem because it's a problem that you're addressing. So that's what the whole triple is.
Okay. Okay, great. So how can young girls realize their role in STEM and that it'll be worth it? And also that it can take them places. I guess STEM is not just for boys.
Oh, no.
STEM or STEAM can be for both boys and girls, right? What experience, Rachna, has been when it comes to, I guess we should not even be differentiating, but we are having to talk about it because our whole goal here is, like breeding positivity and sound inspiring or make it inspiring for boys, girls, other educators, everyone alike, right? Entrepreneurs or people in community engagement to take a leaf out of this conversation and just be, stalwarts in their own way, right? So how can girls just transform or just make it better for themselves? And what is in it, when it comes to STEM for girls?
I think, I love that analogy of a shadow. So when you are standing against the sun in the morning, the shadow is behind you. And at midday, it's right on top of you. That's why you don't see the shadow, but sunset, it comes in front of you. So the shadow is your belief, your morals, your strength, and your hard work. It's always with you. It will show up in different ways at different times of the day, different times of the year, different times of your life, but it's always there. Whatever you want to do, you can do it. Believe in yourself. Create role models out of yourself because you don't want to be somebody ordinary. You are special. You are built. You're born in this world because there is something special that you can give. Find what you want to give to others. It's not always about, self-satisfaction. It's about, and I can tell you from my example, the more I give, it comes back to me tenfold, and it's always it's a living experience. Give, even if you have nothing to give, help, and then you'll see that you'll find yourself as a unique person who has so much to give.
And the action will take you plays.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, we just have to open our minds. It's not like a boy or a girl. It's about who you are, who you want to be, and whom you want to be known by. You'll build your own legacy. Just believe in yourself, find your shadow, find your strength, find your abilities. It may take you 1 year, it may take you 2 years, it may take you 35 years, like it did for me, because I did not know what I was trying to do even with a PhD. But it will come to you. Just believe in yourself.
It's also a matter of kind of like just in a bit of self introspection and the discovery part, within ourselves, right?
Right.
We
Right.
all have so much to offer. It's just how better we tap into our inner resources,
Correct.
our capabilities, and feel confident about bringing it out is I guess, the bigger picture. And of course, there has to be certain instruments around us that needs
Right.
to facilitate it.
Right.
So in terms of support system and the role, what do you think has to happen? And I also want to have you focus on, does grant writing have to be the starting point for any of these innovations to happen? Or could it be, I know it probably does not have to be, but just want to be very sure. So I guess I have asked you like a two-part question.
No worries. No, I see, that is just my process, which I found worked, right? It could be so many ways. One of the biggest things that I have seen motivates students is role models, not us as role models, but student role models. And that's what I was able to create with my dribble methodology. But there are so many different ways that you can do it. Now, while you're creating an impact by just doing this podcast and figuring out a way to, reach people so that you can give back to your community in your way. I have seen people.
Oh, that's so kind of you. Thank
No,
you.
absolutely.
I'm just trying to do my small part.
See, it's the same thing, right? Because you are doing a small part. I'm doing my small part. I don't think I've achieved anything yet. I have so many things to do. But I know that in the process, I did not believe in myself earlier. Now I believe in myself. I have a huge problem taking positive comments in. I will always defer it to somebody else. But now I know that I deserve that because I have worked extremely hard to be where I am right now, and just knowing yourself, finding yourself amongst adversities is one of the big things. It's so easy to be negative. But to find that one positive thing in an entirely negative setting and sticking to the positive thing, climbing out of that adversity and holding on to it and finding that light, that is something that will stay with you forever, I feel. I don't know if I answered all the questions.
What about the support system? What do you think, parents, educators, friends, family, peer level, anyone has to do in terms of fostering anyone's talent to just, be out and about?
No, I feel that the biggest support system is your parents, and I understand that for some parents, they also have to learn to give the students the space to be able to be creative. The society that we live in is so forgiving, so accepting that, and I can tell you an example. Back in India, I had only 2 years to be in a medical profession, and that was it. If I did not apply for medical classes in 2 years, that's gone. Here, I can become a doctor now if I want to. So take advantage of the system. Don't push the students to what you want to do, but have them figure out they will make money. It's not about that, but it's about finding that balance between what they truly want to do versus we have to be the support system. For me, my students, I am the support system outside of home. And I know that I am not the only one. There are many students, many teachers like that who support their kids in multiple ways. I know teachers who would buy Christmas gifts of their own money and give it to the students. Again, there is support systems everywhere. We only have to ask. And I think that with corporations, industries, nonprofits, for-profits, organizations, whatever you want, wherever I have asked, I have gotten that support for my students and their projects. And it's not visible as of now, but if you reach out, I'm pretty sure that you'll find your support system anywhere. But it starts at home and your school.
Okay. And on that note, like when it comes to students themselves, how much is scientific inquiry significant when it comes to kids learning and developing themselves?
I think the biggest thing that a teachers can do is connect concepts to things that are happening in their own daily lives. When I teach photosynthesis, I do not just go in and write the equation on the board, and I just try to make it relevant for the students so that, that inquiry process starts with the students even before the content is taught. They understand why they're learning the concept. Because I used to teach honors bio. I know that unit 1 is cells, unit 2 is blah, 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 right? But why are we teaching them the way they are in the curriculum? Because there is a sequence to it. There is an importance to it. If we can connect all of those content to real life situations and scenarios, I think the kids will understand it better and they'll understand the relevance of it and do well in even assessments. Because I think at this point, even for math concepts, just teaching them as math concepts is not important. Give them as a problem. They'll give them design challenges that can incorporate not just math, but biology, physics. It needs to be more integrated. That's what I feel. So.
Okay. So for anyone wondering, what does Rachna Nath teach in high school? So what exactly does she do? And is STEM for just nerdy and geeky folks?
Well, no, absolutely not. I mean, I make my class very, very interesting. I presently teach biotechnology 1 and 2, which are dual enrolled, and they give college credits from University of Arizona. I also teach AP environmental science, where actually it's a whole lot of creativity. I love teaching this course because it's so unlike any other AP classes, which are, well, of course, we have more content than AP Bio, but I teach it completely through experimentation and STEM research. So STEM or STEAM research, as I love to call it, where those kids actually end up with my methodology triple from the very start. And I have this one class where students understand what they want to do, and I guide them through patent searches, establishing companies, and also licensing.
And you've made yourself available to not just your core curriculum students, but like you said earlier, even your ninth graders and stuff are able to approach you. And have you had stories where students have completely, thrown you off by turning 180 and all of a sudden emerging as STEM enthusiasts? I guess, you talked to David, but probably was already gravitating towards STEM because you said he was gravitating towards robotics.
Right.
So have students surprised you, and has that led to career pathways or educational pathways, just being explored differently? And you brought up biotechnology. So how much has bioscience been instilled by this teacher in her students?
I had these couple of art students who with the art teacher would do amazing things, right? Amazing concepts. But then I needed a logo being created for one of my projects. And I said, hey, you are such an excellent drawer. Would you mind doing this for me? Unbelievable. I mean, the ideas that they came up with, I just gave them these pointers and they created such beautiful logos. And I said, hey, do you see that art can be so much into the concepts that we teach in STEM? Because think about NASA is huge into STEM, right? But without the NASA logo or sketches in the book for robots, nothing can happen. And that is one of the things I do as part of a NASA ambassador. Tell the students that you do not have to be a physics or a math genius to be working for NASA. The A in everything is exceptionally strong. All the science textbooks that you have, I cheated back in my undergrad level when I had to draw this whole embryology of chick. I did not draw it. My brother, who was an exceptional artist, drew it for me. So, all the drawings in your science textbooks, those are artists who are doing it, and they are contracted with the STEM community to work. So, yes, there are students who have gravitated from being an art to understanding that the art is very much part of STEM.
An integral
part of it. So, yes.
And how much has your role in bioscience helped your students explore that as a career pathway or an educational pathway?
Everybody that I know wants to do something in bioengineering, biomedical. I can sit here and name multiple projects that are happening at this point. A couple of things that I would like to mention is we are doing a heat stress band where we are monitoring vitals for people who work outside in Arizona. If they wear it, they'll get notifications on their phones on whether they're going to.
Is that the Sense Hydro?
Correct, the Sense Hydro, yeah. Then we have, we call it the SAR band, the SAR band, which is a student athlete rehabilitation band. Then we have one of the bunch of students who have actually figured out a way to control termites using natural organic products found in your household. We have talked about honeybees swarming because swarming is a big problem and how honeybees can be kept away from households and commercial places so that we don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars getting beehives out of our homes. So many projects. Then one of my students is talking about neuroscience. One of them wants to make a fresh Band-Aid out of aloe vera. I'm like, okay, let's go. So yeah.
And then there's Eco Clamp and the Wi-Fi band, extender type of device. And of course,
Correct.
Oxyblast, you as an innovator and co-founder of that. So if you just want to touch upon any of these innovations, and Oxyblast is something that you and your daughter have done together, which is phenomenal. And I love this Eco Clamp thing because it's an AI-powered sustainability stuff, which helps you decipher between recyclables and non-recyclables.
Exactly.
Right? So why don't I have you talk about all these innovations and patents and also your role in the community in general as far as preserving the environment and specifically anything pandemic related that you contributed?
So for all of these projects, one of the basic things that my students have done is understood that there is a problem. So, and with EcoClamp, primarily the project came out of, the students saw that a lot of students did not care whether they were throwing their garbage or recycled. So they decided that they're going to build this clamp that's going to get into recycle bins. And then if anybody wants to come and throw it in a recycle can, which is not recyclable, it's going to spit out and saying, nope, put it in the trash. So very simple concepts that we can actually implement in every schools and colleges and everywhere. So that was that. A Wi-Fi extender came from an idea of, police officers who are in situations where they do not have Wi-Fi signals. And then Oxyblast came out of my daughter's passion of cooking. She had been writing these recipes since she was 10 years old. We never got a chance to publish it, but I said, okay, why don't you just document it? So when she was 14 years old during the pandemic, we were actually making masks for Seva International. And this one lady came up to me because she was collecting the masks from me and said, I have this friend who is a publisher. I said, wait, what? Publisher? And I said, oh yeah, my daughter is writing a book, planning to write a book. Can we talk to the publisher? And then ended up becoming an international bestseller in 4 countries and 9 different categories. And within that book itself, they had actually talked about a superfood, which is plant metabolite, which is think about parts of the plants or fruits and vegetables that you throw away. That became a superfood because we researched on flavonoids, which are found in plants. So using that concept, she established her company in India. We're planning to bring it into the US, but slowly. We started off 2 years back, but officially it was launched a couple of months back. So we are still working on the marketing strategies and having a provisional patent for it, trademarking, all of those, tedious work. But she has learned a lot.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
I will just be sure to include a link to that episode on this very show of my conversation with Rachna Nath on how she founded and her wonderful innovation of Oxyblast. And what is the road ahead for Rachna Nath? And you mentioned Seva during COVID, and coincidence right here, I was involved in Seva community service as well here in our area and targeting all the the food needs and everything else for the frontline workers and for other donations to many families. So it's just every small bit that we are able to step into counts, right? Right. Discovery for ourselves as to what we can offer to the community. It's not about just adorning any bragging hats on. It's just about
Right.
how
Right.
you are able to connect. Like you said,
Sure.
it paved the way for you guys to find a publisher for your daughter's book. And so you
Right.
never know what
Right.
can lead to what, and those
Right.
stuff, your involvement in art, dance, and music, and the road ahead for Rachna Nath and team. And we can just close right there. I know you just have to get going with your project.
To be very honest, I don't know what's up for Rachna Nath. I mean, I just go with the flow. I take the direction that destiny takes me. I make the most out of it. I go with, I believe very strongly, is something that my dad said. My dad is a cricketer, and what he said was, Rachna, watch for the ball. If you're a batsman, watch for the ball. If the ball is a bouncer, you have to duck and let it go over your head. Do not attempt to hit it because it's going to fail. But when you get a right delivery, never fail to hit it for a sixer. So I wait for those opportunities and I think that I put myself out there, I make myself visible, I make my students visible, and through that, we have been able to establish quite a community in this, again, touch wood. Because of that, things happen, things move. And we as, parents, we as mentors, we as guides, we should not stop looking for opportunities just because we have reached a particular position. There are always new things that we can learn. I personally like myself putting in very uncomfortable situations because that's my learning. To be very honest, I don't know what's up for me in the next 5 to 10 years, but I know that it's going to be something positive, something refreshing, something new, and just keep going, I guess.
Well, it's all about what you make out of, every opportunity, right? That's
correct.
Beautifully said. Yeah. If you want to add any of your contact information,
they can find me on LinkedIn. It's Rachna Nath 1. If they want to email me, it's rachnanath@gmail.com. Very easy, my full name. That's it, I guess.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. And it was just such an honor to have you. And I'm sure this is going to serve as inspiration to several people in STEM and STEAM, and
Thank you, Vi.
more innovations to happen and for more research and entrepreneurship to unfold. Thank you so much, Rachna. It's been a delightful conversation.
Thank you, Vi, for having me. I truly appreciate your time, and thank you for the work that you are doing, putting our message forward to the world, and I appreciate you.
Oh, well, thank you. And to listeners, thanks so much for tuning in week after week. Follow me on Instagram at YP for constant updates. I will see you back again with yet another guest and yet another interesting topic. Until then, it's Vi saying so long.